For centuries, the galaxy's archives had recorded only absence when it came to Earth. Humanity was written off as a forgotten ember, a species that had burned itself out long before the modern empires rose. The Zayari Council, a coalition of long-lived species, had come to regard humanity as a myth told to cadets. A once fierce race, yes, but reckless. They built too fast, spread too far, and when the pressure of galactic politics tightened, they vanished. No colonies had broadcast in ages. No ships bore their banners. The records ended in silence. Around the council's great chamber, ambassadors often laughed. Humans, they were dust before our great-grandmothers hatched. For most, this was not just history, it was reassurance. A reminder that one of the galaxy's most unpredictable predators was gone. Or so they thought. The disturbance at the edge. The first signals came from the outer rim. Patrol craft of the Vaith Dominion reported strange gravitational echoes around a dead star cluster. At first, it was dismissed as the phantom noise of collapsing systems. Yet the readings repeated, regular, rhythmic. Then came the derelicts. Automated probes relayed images of vast shadows suspended between shattered moons. Colossal structures, kilometers long, shaped like warships but draped in silence. The council scientists debated fiercely. Were they ruins of some forgotten race? A natural formation? The word human was not spoken, not at first, but buried deep in archives, someone matched the hull silhouettes. The lines, the design, unmistakably Terran. The council laughed at the thought. If it was human, then these hulks were dead stone, nothing more, ghosts drifting in a graveyard. Still, the signals intensified. The graveyard revealed. A task force was dispatched. Dreadnoughts of the council's fleets, bristling with modern weapons, sailed into the cluster. They scanned the silent armada, 100, 200, perhaps 1,000 hulks, ancient ships, scarred and inert. Their plating bore the marks of wars fought millennia ago. The council grew bold. See, dead relics, another myth. But then the council's own ships reported something chilling. The wrecks weren't wrecks. Their cores were cold, yes, but intact. Reactors built of alloys unknown still held potential charge. Weapons arrays, though corroded, aligned like sleeping predators. And strangest of all, encrypted signals still pulsed faintly between them. Codes old but still valid. The council's admirals dismissed it as background noise, yet unease spread. Why would ruins still talk to each other? When the dead stirred, the turning point came without warning. A single pulse echoed through the cluster. Every alien sensor lit up at once. Across the graveyard, dormant reactors hummed. The first Terran battleship, its hull blackened with age, ignited. The void filled with a low, bone-deep vibration, the roar of engines designed not just for travel but for war. One ship became two, two became 10. Across the cluster, hulks stirred, thrusters flared like eyes opening in the dark. Council captains shouted over comms, demanding explanations. Their modern fleets scrambled into defensive formations. But the truth was undeniable. The graveyard was not a graveyard. It was an arsenal in slumber. A fleet. An army. The awakening armada. They rose as if they had only been waiting. Formations aligned with mechanical precision. Old codes, long dismissed as broken, synchronized across ships larger than cities. Weapons powered up, their barrels casting crimson reflections across nearby moons. The council's admirals panicked. Modern ships maneuvered clumsily against vessels older than their civilizations, vessels that moved as if no time had passed. Humanity's war machines did not drift, they advanced. Missile silos yawned open. Rail cannons charged. Point defense arrays swept the void. Every detail screamed one truth: this fleet had never been abandoned. It had been preserved. And it was awake. The clash of eras. At first, the Council fired in desperation. Energy beams lanced out, striking the ancient ships, but the results chilled their blood. The Terran hulls absorbed the punishment. Their armor, layered with materials the galaxy no longer understood, shrugged off what should have been annihilation. Some ships flickered, but none fell. Then the Terrans answered. A single volley erased a Council cruiser, its shields shredded in an instant, its hull torn apart by rail slugs moving at a fraction of light speed. Another ship vanished under a cascade of missiles that maneuvered like hunters. The Council fleets faltered. Their admirals screamed for retreat, but the human ships pressed forward, not with chaotic fury but with calm, lethal choreography. They fought like veterans, every maneuver precise. It was as if the galaxy's most feared warriors had returned unchanged, while everyone else had grown complacent. Terror in the stars. Panic consumed the Council. Entire flotillas broke ranks, retreating into the void. Yet the Terran armada did not pursue recklessly. They moved like a storm unfolding, deliberate, unstoppable. Ships older than empires shifted into perfect battle lines. Carriers released drones that had slept for centuries, their programming uncorrupted. Dreadnoughts unleashed barrages that made stars themselves seem dim. From the outside, it looked like ghosts of war had risen. The galaxy, so proud of its modern fleets, now cowered before ships that should have been history. The dread spread in whispers. If this was only one arsenal, how many more lie hidden? If this was their graveyard, what is their fortress? The aftermath of awakening. When the battle ended, silence returned, but it was no longer the silence of forgetfulness. It was the silence of fear. The Council's fleets limped home, scarred and humiliated. Their reports were frantic, contradictory, filled with awe and terror. They could not even agree on whether humans commanded the ships, or if the ships commanded themselves. What mattered was the truth no one could deny. Humanity was not extinct, not forgotten, not gone. They had preserved an army, and they had chosen to wake it. Storms preserved. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy whispered. Trade routes faltered. Border empires tightened defenses. And every time someone looked at a derelict in their own territory, they wondered, is this too one of theirs? Scholars pored over the fragments of history. Old records spoke of human fleets built not just for war, but for endurance. Vessels sealed away, commanded to sleep until called. Humanity had not simply built navies, they had built storms, locked in cages of metal, waiting for the day they were needed. The Council tried to suppress the truth. They called it exaggeration, a myth retold by frightened captains, but fear spread faster than their lies. Because the images were real, entire skies lit by the awakening of ships long dead. And the question none dared voice was the most terrifying of all. If this was their forgotten arsenal, what else lies waiting? Closing note, the return of the forgotten. The galaxy had thought humanity extinct, but in truth, they were only patient. Where others built empires to shine and fade, humans built legacies to endure. The Council had found a graveyard, but it was an army. And now, the stars themselves waited in dread of what storm might come next. The Galactic Council's archives were thick with centuries of history, conquests, treaties, and collapses catalogued in precise detail. But one entry was always conspicuously thin: Earth. Once millennia ago, humanity had burned like a sudden fire across the stars. They were unpredictable, violent, and ingenious, always outnumbered, always underestimated, and yet somehow always victorious. But then, just as suddenly as they had erupted into galactic affairs, they had vanished. The archives showed silence. No broadcasts, no fleets, no colonies maintaining contact. Their homeworld, by all accounts, had gone dark. The counselors, sitting in their gleaming chamber of crystal and silver, regarded it as a natural truth. The humans were gone. Extinct, forgotten, irrelevant. The galaxy had grown comfortable in that assumption. Empires rose, fleets expanded, and technologies were refined without fear of the Terran anomaly returning. The name Earth became a ghost story, told with the same reverence one might give to the ruins of a long-fallen empire. But comfort has always been the seed of arrogance. The graveyard among the stars. It began at the edge of map space, where the void thickened into silence and navigation signals grew faint. Patrol ships from the Zethari Dominion reported anomalies, weak bursts of radio static, centuries old in style, laced with codes that no algorithm could decrypt. At first, the Council dismissed it. Residual echoes, said one archivist, ghost signals bouncing through forgotten satellites. But the reports continued. Derelict stations drifted in impossible formations. Vast metal hulks, scarred by time, hung silently in orbit around barren worlds. The Zethari called it a graveyard. Towering battleships, their hulls blackened, sat in endless rows like tombstones stretching across the void.